And now it's time for a mindfulness journey with Mr. Tai Chi.
So I grew up in New York City, New York proper. And in that, my family spent time in the suburbs because my father worked as an engineer. So those early years were, I would have to say, prosperous. They were prosperous years, right? I can't give you the, oh, I come from poverty story. No, I didn't come from poverty. As a matter of fact, my parents, my mother's a secretary, my father's an engineer, they sent me to private school. They wanted me to assimilate into the culture. So they sent me to Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School. Well, does the term fly in buttermilk mean anything to you? Okay. I was a fly in buttermilk. And here I was, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. It was such a hard time for the culture that I couldn't ride the school bus home. The first time I rode the school bus, I was emotionally, verbally, psychologically, and almost physically attacked by the other students on the bus. They called me names. I heard names I had never heard of before. The bus driver, he was beside himself. He said, I can't continue like this. You have to get off. So I was put off the school bus. Wound up walking home. Wondering what was wrong. Wondering what was wrong. What was wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong here? So there wasn't a part of me that said this wasn't supposed to happen. This is your cultural milieu. Whatever happens in your cultural milieu is what happens. So I couldn't take the bus to school, so my mother and father now had to shuttle me back and forth to school for my own safety. For my own safety. After about 2.5 years, I was there till third grade. After about 2.5 years in the suburbs, my mother couldn't take it anymore. She said she didn't have any friends. She didn't like the way people looked at her when she went shopping. And the neighbors wouldn't speak to her. So my father, he's beside himself. What is he going to do? What to do? What to do? What to do? He's trying to keep his family together in some type of a reasonable manner. And the stress, trauma, and shock that was perpetuated on his family was untenable. So he moved his family back to the city where my mother could have friends and people, right? But still, we were back to the city, but it was still selected neighborhoods, right? My father still had this idea of integration into the culture. He still had this idea. So I went to another private school. up to the 5th grade. Our Lady of Holy Conception, something, right? And from the 5th grade, we moved again, and I went to another private school. This time it was an Episcopal school, John of God something. So this is my experience all the way to 9th grade, was these Catholic schools. What do I know? I'm just a kid from the city. I don't know anything. But along the way, what you start to realize is that what you are being taught and educated is not consistent with societal themes and norms. So there's this incongruency between your education and your experiences. Your education and your experiences, they don't click. That leaves a ground of mistrust inside you. So I couldn't trust my education. I couldn't trust the educators. There was no trust there. So my father, he's an engineer. He starts telling me about this thing called Taoism and Yin Yang. Trying to get me to chill out because I'm suffering from trauma, stress, anger, frustration. I turned into quite an angry young man. Now, I had enough self-awareness to note that being an angry young man can get you into a lot of trouble. So I was trying to find ways to ameliorate my aggressiveness. Now, I didn't just become aggressive. Like I say, I was a young, innocent child full of wanderlust.